Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of June 8th, 2021. We're just finishing up reading the folder and dealing with the folders here. Then we will start the meeting. Audrey, this spectrum bill for out back, the county ever make it over here?
The county has not replied to me. No.
Or Joe?
Or Joe. I think Joe could be encouraged to pressure them. They use an outside person. I don't know. I guess he's notorious for being bad at responding. I'll follow up. Yeah.
Just
I'll send Joe an email.
Send him an email, copy me on it.
Okay.
And what I'll do if I need to, I'll get balls. Oh, Dave will let you know if you missed one. So.
I think I looked at all the
Okay. Oh, yeah. Take a look. We're still going. No.
We figured you knew each other's names and we didn't have to continually list them.
Nope. Still gonna do it.
We're changing life up on.
It was funny, I forgot to be added the one about additions to the agenda, so when I saw the new stuff in the packet, didn't I come and redo the agenda this morning, I'm like, I could just left it alone.
Right.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name's Chuck Fuller, Lenny Esky here on my right and Tom Hart on my left. When we get to the public speaking portion of the meeting later on, those that are acknowledged, you'll be raising your hand on the Zoom and you'll be admitted into the meeting and you'll have up to 5 minutes to make your statement and or ask your questions. And before we get started, I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay. Signature folder. Is this the same order we normally have it in? Manifest first. Okay,
Yeah, I'm done.
we're gonna do signature folder starting as the next item on our agenda, we'll get to manifest. The selectmen's meeting minutes for June 2nd and work session of May 25th. I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes for June 2nd, 2021. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Fuller eye. Work session minutes of May 25th. I make a motion to approve those minutes. Do I hear a second?
Aye.
Yeah, real quick, you can choose one, Johnny. Fuller eye.
Aye.
In the oath per RSA 75-7. I don't know what that one's about. You know?
Something about the tax bills.
Oh,
Yes.
no, that document we signed with the three
Yeah.
something. So we ended up, the selectmen had to sign a document, to be able to get the tax bills printed and out the door. And as a result of that, people can actually pay online, everything's available today, if you wanna pay your bills. And we'll talk about the mailing in a few minutes. There were some yield and timber tax cut paperwork to do. An elderly exemption was in there, in that particular folder. Approval of manifest. I'll make a motion to approve the manifest in the amount of $22,927.86. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Fuller eye.
Aye.
Okay, review of the mail, the junkyard, update. The zoning officer has provided an update to us regarding the 11 different projects when junkyard started last year and the status of those. They're in different status, and I believe at least 3 of those are in the attorney's hands for lack of response to the CEO. There was also a 91A request from Judy Gear for the town's internal control procedures. Audrey will be sending those out to Jim.
They've been sent.
They've been sent. Good, thank you. Announcements. Carroll County Commissioners meeting is June 9, 2021 at 9 a.m. So anybody that would like to attend that, that will be your date. And property tax bills, I guess, Deanna has sent the bills up to the printer, who notified us he was just a tad behind, but he was gonna try and get them done, so the tax bills should be coming out in the mail within a couple weeks. But for those people that would like to pay them electronically, they are available online right now. Go to the town website, go to the left-hand column, and in property tax payments is one of the links.
I have an update on that also, and the printer thinks he'll have them in the mail Friday.
Perfect.
Friday.
Good, Friday's better than the next week or two. Okay, town administrator comments.
All right. Other than the comments I already had, we have the audit happening. They will be here Thursday and Friday. And I believe we have most of the information we need in order for him. I just need to reach out to the Conservation Commission. The update on the tax bills. I have not looked at Sam yet. I provided information on the used oil grant, and we're taking what we have in-house and copying it to Lenny. It'll be ready at the end of the meeting. We have questions from the state on the gopher payments and specifically the fire and police stipend, which I have a little bit of concern about. I don't know how to necessarily break them out because we claimed more than our allowed amount on our final, and that included fire and police, so it's almost based on what they decided as part of that final payment. So I know that,
And I know we had that documentation submitted to us.
yes, and
Support
this
those
documentation,
requests.
but, so the accountant had made some adjustments for that last gopher payment, so I have to work on that. Those are my priorities for this week.
Okay. Good. All right, Mr. Hart.
Yeah, okay, all the roads parked, Ron yesterday, all the roads were graded as of last Friday, calcium chloride was put down. He didn't get a slip back from, Kevin, graded yet on the calcium, but I believe it was around another 6,000 gallons. He got the slip. He was yours. And I did want to mention too, I thought Kevin did a heck of a great job on grading the roads.
And we actually got an email from a citizen on Granite Road who thanked us very much for putting the calcium down, because apparently there's a medical condition within the household, and the lack of dust helps greatly with that issue. So,
With the grading done now they can concentrate on, which they have been picking up some piles, but there's still piles on there. I promised me you would get working on those. Cemetery Road has not been done yet, that will be graded, we're supposed to get a couple loads of gravel in there this week. I'll stay on it, that's all I can, Still working on the ISO, playing telephone tag for Dave out here, doing no survey first for the dry hydrants, what it will take to get the dry hydrant registered. And maybe some locations for some new ones are. But that's the telephone tag game on that. We discussed last week, the Boston Post game will be presented today around noontime by the police selectmen on behalf of the town of Effingham.
and I'll be here.
No,
Okay.
they also agreement.
Okay.
I also want to thank Lenny for getting in touch with the tree guy. I was bang real quick. And, got the tree down out front here that was dead. And you go look at it, you never know anybody was even there. Great job.
Thank you.
Who was it? Smith?
Dale Smith.
Smith, great job. That's all. And that's it for me this week.
All right. Lenny.
Speaking of trees, Dale been in to give you anything for it?
No,
He said he would. He's working down Bailey Roads.
What was his name?
Dale?
Dale Smith.
Yes.
Speaking of trees, I got notified by Janet Ivers, there's one on Molly Philbrook Road. I think it was Friday, so I went and looked at it. It was kind of snapped off, it's caught up in pine-woods. It's fallen towards the woods. There's no danger of it coming in the road that I can see. If you guys want to go look at it, I checked with Dale. His boom is insulated, but it's not been tested, it's not up to date. To do anything with it, you'd probably have to get it shut the power off. But I don't think it's a big deal if you guys want to go look at it.
Is it laying on any wires?
No.
We don't think it's a big deal. It's good.
Yeah, I
No
know.
recommendation.
Unless it's on, we need to do something, I'm good with that.
I mean, like I said, it's caught up. It'd be a couple of hydrants. The cutoff cable on Philbrook Road, we got a voicemail message Friday. The guy said throw the bill away, don't worry about it. He looked at the cable plates, it's kind of baffling, it's confusing, he said, as to if it was abandoned, when, where. So I called him yesterday, I says, can you send me an email? I gave him Alan's email something, stating that. As of yet, he said he tried to get it out yesterday morning, but as of this morning, I haven't received it.
Would we be safe in notifying Primex that they no longer have to be reviewing stuff on our behalf?
Yeah, I can
Give it
call,
another day or so, or?
I mean, I got his, I saved his voicemail,
Yeah,
but,
well, why don't you could write him a quick email and just based from a town standpoint,
Yeah.
documentation.
yeah,
We
he just
received
fired off
or
and
you
didn't
don't
help it.
need to, so that,
Cause he called me,
David,
David.
Yeah.
On
yeah, he's talked to all three of us.
um, So I told him what was happening at that point, but they were researching it. I hadn't heard back, so I called him again Friday morning, and he left me a voicemail on the afternoon. So I talked to him yesterday morning, and asked him to send an email up, so we'd have a record of it. Perfect. So far, when I get it, I'll get it to you and you can share it.
Thank you.
And I talked to Randy, we went down Saturday, we went over the hydrant. If we can get, there's a rock in the river that fell down, and it's got the end of the pipe covered, the strainer pipe.
This right on front of
Yeah, and of course, it's all, the banks washed in and it's filled in with silt and everything else. If we can get, they don't know what size the pipe is. They think it might be 6, but, because they use an 8-inch, maybe 6. But, if we could get Ron down there just to pick that rock out with the backhoe,
Can we do that in that waterway without
I
contacting DES?
I think if we just pick the rock out, we'd be all set, just to see. Not gonna be doing any digging.
Right, just removing the snow.
And I suggested, and Randy thought it was a good idea, if we can find the end of it, extend it out. Because that bank, it just keeps washing in, and fill it up with silt, but if you can get it out another 10 feet, there's a nice big hole.
Okay,
But they gotta decide, they gotta find out what size first. And Randy, I guess they'll get the pipe, but I did check with Lawrence, he put it in. He did the digging, but the fire department got all the permits, pipe and everything else, they put everything in, he just did the digging, so he wasn't sure of what they got, but probably back then, Gary Taylor was the fire chief, he said he did it, so that was back probably 19s, early 70s. Probably didn't need all the permits.
so do I remember correctly from the conversation, is it broken off on the fire station side?
Yeah,
Okay,
and it had been patched a couple times,
okay.
but it's also, they don't know if it's destroyed,
Under
street
the road.
on the other end, so without being able to see, so
Okay.
just like see
Get
it.
that rock out of
First
there.
thing is move the rock.
Yeah,
Okay,
That's all you want to do at this point?
probably till Randy decides what, you know, best way to go about it. All right.
And did you want the size of color while he's there?
Well, Randy said he'd like to be there, but, so I don't know. Randy said it can't be this Tuesday or next Tuesday.
I'll just have to pick a rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was talking to Randy, I saw him get a good burn permit. And Randy, thank you for plowing the hydrant on Stevens Road. About the plowing contract. Called to plow all the drive. Yeah.
First I've heard of it, I don't know what
Yeah.
you're not doing, so we could
I
check.
thought it was odd that, you know, I mean, we shouldn't have to do it, I mean, well,
No, no.
I believe unless they changed the plowing contract, I think the plowing contract said to plow all dry hydrants.
You know, take a look.
Except for the one on Moody Road, because they can reach that right from the road. But the Lloyd's Hill one.
I'll have you pull it, and check it, make sure that's working through there. And then we can reach out.
So I, you know, I just don't think it's up to,
Premises, yep.
yeah,
Make sure he gets that message.
okay, the street's gone, so, yeah, it's all.
Thank you.
I think he did it Saturday. While his boom truck. He said he was gonna try and get it Sunday, so I'll be good, because he was there. Back the trailer right up, drop it, let it in the trailer.
Like I was there yesterday, I started to look over. Wasn't thick.
Yeah.
Anything else, sir?
Nope.
Okay, good. All right, couple things. The Department of Health and Human Services wrote an email to the health officer, which was distributed this morning, we read it, about a cyanobacteria bloom that had been observed on Province Lake within the last week or so. It has been dissipating, and there are some rumors that it's actually gone at this point in time. The only reason I bring this up is please pay attention to the signage down there along 153 when that happens, because that bacteria is extremely harmful to pets and can actually make humans pretty sick. Another item we had in the mailbag was from the Effingham Conservation Commission around a load of gravel off Route 153 by Leopard Reserve, to get that in there. I'm not sure that's our responsibility of the state road, that we're making a call up there and basically saying, hey, that you have contacts up there, money?
And Freedom Garage, yeah, oh, well,
Yeah, I mean, if they can do it, great. If not, the Conservation Commission even willing to pay for it,
Yeah.
is that probably that bad where it's breaking the edge of the pavement. They can dump a load, they said they spread it.
yeah, when they shouldn't, 2 years ago, they shouldn't have really. They put a lot of reclaim, built that up probably 6 or 8 inches, you know. So the shoulders, it's pretty significant drop off. I mean, they did come back through and do the shoulder, but some places it wasn't deep. So,
And that was across that one area where it was really high when they.
yeah, they did that whole flat.
All right, good, thank you, Lenny. Saturday morning, actually, sometime last week, I believe it was Friday morning, I got a call about wires being down on Common Hill Road. Waste management truck took down the consolidated wires right at the top of the knoll where that blue trailer is, between Ronnie's house and the blue trailer, where the top of the knoll kind of bends to the left a little. The poles had been replaced about 7 or 8 years ago by Eversource, but Consolidated never came back and moved their wires, which were low at that time. So they took them out. I actually called dispatch, and we started to repair the call tree for that kind of thing. And as of this morning, Consolidated still had not shown up. The Spectrum guy did drive by that same morning, and I saw him. And I was telling him that I knew it was Consolidated. He goes, "Yep, I know. I was just coming out to check." And as soon as they said it's Consolidated, he said, "Good luck. They're not known for coming back and putting any wires up anymore. If there are no customers being served, they're not fixing the repairs." So I wasn't able to do it this weekend, but sometime later this week, I'm gonna try to get down there and just roll the wire up with some zip ties and put them near the poles so they get them out of the road. Because right now they're still on the edge of the road. All right.
Your phone's working?
I use
You use.
I use
it. I mean,
Spectrum. I use Spectrum. I use the voice over internet protocol. And that wire is high. They put that in for me about 2 years ago, 3 years ago when they did it. I mean, it's like 8 feet in that one area. It's like 8 feet tall. But Consolidated line is not hit. The next thing I want to touch base on is information going around within the town office about opening up next week.
The
Okay.
air conditioner, it's really.
Good, thank you. So I want to talk about opening the town office next week. So the governor's executive order is going to expire this Friday, the 11th. Working within the town office, the staff and the selectmen have discussed opening the office for people to come in. Last week, we had agreed that we would do that, but face masks would be required. Since that period of time, there's been some additional discussion internally in the office. And the office staff is comfortable with people entering the building without face coverings at all. My question is, do either one of you two gentlemen have an issue with that?
Not at all.
Audrey actually found some language that we will post on the front door that says masks are not required. I'm not gonna do this verbatim, I'm just doing it from memory. Masks are not required, but should someone coming into the building wish that a staff person have a mask on while they're dealing with them, they can make that request. We do have a number of citizens in town that have respiratory issues. That means they're pretty much gonna wear a mask all the time when they're out. And if they want one of the staff to wear a mask during their interaction, they will do that. It's still gonna be by appointment only for the town clerk, tax collector. If you happen to drop in and nobody's here for an appointment, they will take care of you. On Tuesdays, there will be confirmed appointments only, no walk-ins to the town clerk office. I think that covers the gist of all the discussions in the last week and a half on that one.
And the mask from the selectmen's meeting. Someone from the public.
They
wants
can
a
come in
mask.
without mask.
Yeah, if they want a mask,
If they want a mask, they can wear a mask.
but we don't have a
I
mask.
don't have to worry about them. No. And I had a discussion with NHMA within the last couple of days around the whole mask issue and opening up the building. And even after the governor's order expires, it's the local selectmen's policy on face masks that controls. So, because I was worried if we still had the face mask thing and we had our selectmen's meeting and somebody didn't want to wear a mask, what do we do? And he said, the policy is coming in the building with face masks, that's the only way they get in the building. So, where we've chosen now not to have face masks. Audrey, any other input on that from the staff end?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Good. All right, old business. I did the bacteria room one, so we'll take care of that. We updated the mask policy, we'll take that. Snow Road Bridge. All things Snow Road Bridge. Questions? Do you have anything, Tom, that you want to bring up and talk about the ongoing construction that's down there?
No, I was down there yesterday, they're busy working.
They are, and actually, I think they're gonna try and pour concrete by this weekend.
Really?
On that one bridge abutment on that side, so. Lenny?
I'm sure you heard the uproar.
Oh, I'm gonna cover the uproar.
Oh, I just have a question of why wasn't why wasn't it written in the contract to have the granite truck to the transfer station like we did for Stevens Road?
We used the standard contract that was a USDA approved contract, and it mentioned the builder being responsible for removing debris. Once that debris left that location, he owned it. I know for conversations I've had with both Mike and Mike Hansen, the owner of the company, they had a discussion before they even started to break up the road. Mike Hansen had asked Mike, is there anything you want to save? And Mike said, yes, we want to save all the granite that we can, at least the larger pieces that we can get out there, we want to save them. When they started to lift the granite out of that area, there was no place to put all the debris with the granite and then separate it. Because you had wetland on this side and private property on this side. So Mike Holland offered up front, before anything started, to use his property as a place to dump that dirt, because we don't have space at the transfer station for it. And he would separate the granite, which he was doing. So the entire time the crap was going on social media, Mike was sitting on his loader or backhoe, moving granite over on his property and stacking it up. So, and he continued to do that through the 20-something truckloads that they moved over there. So at this point in time, it was a standard contract. Granite wasn't part of it. There was verbal agreement before the work started, the granite would be separated. The granite was separated. And the town, as soon as they get done doing the digging, we can have the town move the granite over to the transfer station. The Evans Brothers moving over. So But everything else that went on, so all of the complaints to the police department about theft of granite and to the attorney general's office about theft of granite and all the other stuff is bogus, because as soon as the granite left the location, it wasn't ours to begin with. By contract, we did not own it. By kindness of a citizen, we still do have access to it, and we'll get it. So if there's anything anybody else wants for information on that, feel free to write any questions you have to the town, or call them, or send your request and email to one of the selectmen, and we will address it right here. We're not going to address it on social media because most of the time the facts are incorrect and there's a lot of misinformation and innuendo going on. Anything else about the bridge?
No, I just,
Okay.
I just,
Go
real
ahead.
quick, I think moving forward, I think we need to look at that,
Oh, absolutely.
that being in every contract down the road on any bridge if we're agreements involved.
So this is a learning
Right,
this is a learning moment for all of us here. So as long as any of the three of us are sitting here with the next bridge contract, great.
Mhm.
Hopefully that'll happen.
yeah,
And
we're gonna avoid all
if we're not here, then hopefully the people that are here will hear this and handle it. The other thing that occurred last week, Lawrence Edwards landed on my doorstep the evening they started to remove the culverts and wanted me to shut the whole program down. I went down to the site, spent an hour and a half there with the owner of Hanson Bridge, Mike Hanson, and I reviewed with him the protocols that were being used to manage that entire removal of the debris and the construction that's there. He was operating within the bounds of the DES permit that was approved. The HEB engineers have been hired as part of the project to be an objective observer to make sure that the project is being built correctly. They were on site, they had no issues. So the culverts were removed and taken out in a one-day time period. Silt fencing and turbidity fencing was put in the water, up above and below, during the entire time action was going on. And it was the feeling of those involved that it was a less intrusive way to get the work done than trying to go in and build coffer dams and pump water from one side of the brook or the river over to the other side of the river. We're doing a lot more turbidity. So the question I had for Mike Hanson, are you operating within the permit? Yes. I'm going to take his word for it that he knows what he's talking about. He's built over 100 DOT approved bridges. Almost every one of them, if not every one of them, has been involved with the DES permitting process. So he's quite familiar with the requirements of the process. Hanson Bridge also owns Hanson Marine on Lake Sunapee, and they do all the concrete dock work around the entire lake. They deal with DES every single day, so they are familiar with that particular process. The complaint was made to the Effingham PD about the theft of granite. The chief, Joe Duchesne, called me and just let me know he was investigating that complaint. And at some point this week, he thought he would be completing his investigation on the case. I do not know what that result is going to be. I do know that because of the complaint being against Mike Cahalan, Mike will be requesting a copy of that entire police report with the complaint, with the investigation, with the results. And he can share that with anybody he would like once it's in his hands. I also had a conversation that same day with Damon Steer from Conway Sun. And I basically told Damon what I just reiterated here, that it was a contract. The contract language required the bridge builder to remove the debris. There was no mention of anything to do with granite. So Damon has that, and he and I talked about his joining this morning, and I think Audrey said he's on. Thank you very much, Damon, for showing up. Any other questions on the bridge? Fortunate access. Good?
Little blurb in there about saving the grant for the town would have lessened a whole lot of headaches.
You know, if somebody on that social media site had just picked up the phone and called the town and said, what's going on? It could have been put to bed immediately. But that's not the way the people want to operate. They'd rather make up the facts and wind each other up and eventually get the facts through a meeting like this. And we see where it goes from there.
I'm really surprised that DES didn't require retention ponds down there to kind of purify that water, because it was pretty brown.
There, for that immediate period of time when it's coming out, it was. But when I went back down and looked at it, like really right near what was there, the water was flowing clear.
Yeah.
So there was turbidity to a degree, but nowhere near what it would have been.
I went down to Plantation Road, to the bridge there, and the water was as clean as it normally is. I mean, it's still quite a ways, snow road to there.
Yep.
And then you get two brooks feeding into it, so.
So,
We did have one citizen, ask the town directly, and I appreciate her doing that. And my response was basically what you said. So, yeah, if anyone wants to write to me or call me, you know,
yes,
I'll let them know I, quoted the contract and, what happens on a lot of these things is they actually create a lot of work for the office. And the 91A requests giving,
we waste a lot of
we
time.
waste a lot of time and,
But it's a democracy.
right, but if
People can ask.
people
The
would
nice
ask
thing is-
compared to social media, that's what causes the work.
We may have to talk about adding additional hours for staff, because with these kinds of things still coming in, the regular work's gotta get done. And it may mean we have to increase staff and increase hours for next year. So we're actually gonna talk about that during budget discussions. People are just absolutely maxed out in here right now without all the additional requests. So we'll take a look at that and we'll determine if people want to fund that or not to improve the service. Anything, so any other comment, Lenny, on the story? Okay, good. Moose Lake Grant, I don't have the letter with me today. I will have it this afternoon. So 2 years ago, when we applied for the Moose Lake Grant for the town hall project, we applied for 10 grand. We received a 10 grand grant. The grant writing team for the historic town hall project has written a 2021 application request. And with that, there is a requirement for support letters from different organizations around town. And last time we had Selectmen, Lord's Hill meeting, Historical Society, Effingham Preservation Society, and one other entity, I believe. We just asked them to write a letter saying they're in support of the historic preservation project. We signed one. I asked Grace to use pretty much that same language, updated for the date of 2021. But I'm gonna, if you're in agreement, we'll sign it. I'll bring that around to each one of you within the next day or two to get it signed. They have to submit it by Monday next week. So we won't be able to get it for the next meeting. You see any problems with being able to do that? Okay. Good. That'll make
I
things.
think Jason's wrote a letter.
They did too, yeah. Did you get a copy of that by chance? If not, I'll find a copy.
Yeah.
I
I don't
kept,
know if Kevin kept it on.
okay.
I doubt it.
But what I did, most of them would have given, I had to scan and put it in PDF or send the file in, so I may actually have it.
Oh, yeah,
I'll
probably.
find it and I'll get it to you. So, yeah, the more letters we get for support, the better it looks. The grant they're going after is for 10 grand. And that 10 grand would, if approved, would go toward the cost of restoring the 3 sets of double doors on the first floor. So the parking lot side, the front doors, and the interior foyer front door doors. So they'll basically remove them, they'll take them to the shop, they'll strip them, they'll epoxy the wood where stuff is cracked or broke or it's rotted off or something, completely refinish it, bring them back and install them with seals. So we'll have a tight fitting door without drafts and cold and stuff like that. So, but we're wasting that yet. We just need to get the money first.
Those interior doors, don't they have to be changed to swing out? Like life safety code or whatever? I know the outside doors they changed.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but there's no reason why when we take them off, we can't fix that at the same time. Because that same question came up, Lenny, when you go through the interior foyer doors, the 2 doors that go to the community room and into the library stacks.
Yeah.
They won't change those doors still. So we'll look at rehanging them all at the same time to meet code. Okay. That's Bailey Road culvert. I got an email Sunday from the president of the Province Lake Association, Lori Dunn, copying myself and of the selectmen, and then I made sure everybody had it from a selectman standpoint about the Bailey Road culvert collapsing in and basically burying part of one of the culverts. I contacted Mike Cahalan because he's involved with that project. He got a hold of the HEB engineer person, Chris Fournier. And Monday morning at 7:30, we met down there to take a look at the bridge. My concern was, looking at what I saw on Sunday, do we have to close that road or not? Is it going to cave in? It was the opinion of the engineers that because none of the travel portion pavement part of the road has any issues going on, that there's no issues with that. What has caved in is from the edge of the pavement over to the concrete barrier that goes across the top of the culverts. It's quite clear that the culverts have rotted and collapsed because you can actually see a foot and a half distance between where the collapsed culvert is and that concrete. Mike took a takeaway to work with Evans Brothers to come up with a plan to clean that debris out. And Mike is working with HEB on an emergency DES permit because we can't really do anything in there until we get something with the DES and let them know that we're going to do a temporary repair. And the goal of that repair is to take a slightly smaller culvert and insert it into that culvert, but make it stick out pretty far beyond the concrete pieces there now. So there's more work to be done. At that point in time of what was going on, knowing we had to get a DES permit, and HEB has worked on a couple of our other projects with DES permits, like Pine River Road emergency repair. I asked them to let us know what it's going to cost to put together a report and start the work on it. Any issues with where we're headed with that right now? There's more to come. I just don't have any more than what I just said.
What's the ultimate end goal there? Just to replace the culverts or?
No,
the
is that,
bridge?
so, the town approved a couple of years back, actually, last year, not this year, last year, to accept the $75,000 grant.
Yeah.
From that, bid specs went out with the assistance of DES, the staff up there. There were 7 or 8 bridge builder engineers that were looked at, and based on a scoring system that the state uses, CMA engineers came out on top, so they were actually contracted to do the job. They gave us an interim report a few months back, and part of that report was defining what new type of bridge could go in there. Culverts is definitely out. They're not doing those anymore, so it's going to be a box bridge, a box culvert of some kind, likely concrete. And the issue that they were working on was the length of the culvert. Because the three options that they laid out in lengths, there were pluses and minuses to them from a DES standpoint. So they were working to get a finer set of information from all the parties involved to come back to us and say, here's what we're gonna recommend you put in. That meeting is actually supposed to happen like anytime now, and I suspect it'll happen within a couple weeks. So we may have a meeting outside of our normal meeting where we have that call with them, to have them review that with us again. At the same time, as of June 15th, we can apply for the next grant to help offset the cost of building the bridge. And Mike had already started that paperwork last year and has already made the contact up to them to be able to go in and finish creating the grant request for that. The goal will be to try and replace that bridge next year. So at this point, don't know how much it's gonna cost. Don't know how we're gonna pay for it. We're hoping grants are gonna be part of it, and I've been on a couple of calls with the state during this process, and I'm gonna guess we have a pretty fair chance of getting a grant. Can't guarantee it, but I would say it looks good. And then we'll replace that in its entirety. The study they did went from the lake down, I think, like close to 1,500 feet below the bridge. So I had to take into account that whole wetland area as part of the study for the state to approve it. So, any other questions on Bailey Road for the moment?
We want to get any caution cones or
Yeah,
how they disappear, but
Well, actually Lori said, can you put some cones down? And I said, yeah, we can buy some cones and put them down. They won't be there more than 24 hours because we have people in this town. Yeah, well, no, they just steal them and take them away. But I told them we try and look at something else that we might be able to like pound into the ground or whatever, so it couldn't be easily removed. That might help with identification, like don't pull over into that ditch next to that guardrail. So, I'm open to your thoughts on that one.
I'll see what I got out here in the shed.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we can just put some signage up on either end of that, so people know if they're coming in, if they start to pull over, they're gonna hit the sign, they probably won't pull over right in that little area. But it'd be nice.
If we put some Jersey barriers, do we have any left?
Yeah, but we can't, we'd actually, because of the distance between the pavement and where it's caving in, we'd probably have to put them on the pavement.
Yeah.
Which means we'd have to be plowing around them and driving around them. And I'm wondering at this point, if we just potentially try and put something there. If we get more cave-in or collapse, well, then we're gonna have to address a whole different way of going
That's
at
what
it.
we did in Stevens Road, so
Yep.
they wouldn't get way over.
Yeah, right now it's caved in enough on the inside of that concrete
Yeah.
that you can't put the Jersey barrier off the pavement without having to fall into
Right.
the brook or the river rather. So, yeah, Tom, if you can check out a couple signs and if you need help, I'll help you pound them in down there.
Alright.
And we'll do it. So, I sent Lori a note last night, which I copied you and Audrey on, that's available. Basically, something that is summarizing what I just talked about here and what we all, and she and Mark were at that meeting down there Monday morning. So I just told her I'd give her something that if she wanted to give it out to the Province Lake Association, she could do that. It's real high level. We're working on it. But it is still safe to drive over at this point. The other thing I did last week is I shared with you, I finally got the link for the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 with attachments and the link to the video for that. I do want to have a discussion as part of our work session next week on where we are going to be headed with that. So please review it before next week. The other thing that came in this week was an anonymous letter addressed to Selectman Lenny Espy, came to the town office. And in it was a one paragraph statement which had some allegations in it. I was not even going to review it and read it today because it was anonymous, but the person in here that's mentioned, Mr. Paul Bartowitz, actually contacted me last night and asked me if I would read the entire statement and then address the false issues in that statement. It says, "Dear sir, I am glad you got elected." This is to Lenny, "and maybe some of the corruption in good old boy network will get taken down. It is my understanding that Mr. Paul Bartowitz has not paid his taxes in several years, and his information is not available on the tax kiosk, and that Mike Cahalan was covering for him and hiding the fact his taxes remain unpaid. Additionally, he is putting a driveway on his property on Green Mountain Road, and I see no evidence of a driveway permit that is anything that Mikey was covering up in return for Bartowitz being such a diehard supporter. Because it is the only way I can imagine someone would support that egotistical idiot, a supporter of yours." So let's take the issues as they stand one at a time. Audrey did some follow-up, so I'm gonna actually let Audrey address some of the things that are in here because she worked on this yesterday. If you would, Audrey?
I don't need the letter.
You don't need a letter? Okay.
No, I checked with our tax collector, and Mr. Bartowitz not only pays his taxes, but he consistently maintains a credit balance. So he is actually ahead of all of his payments. Regarding the driveway, I reached out to our zoning officer. She said that there was not a permit for that property. So I contacted Mr. Bartowitz, and he said that the right of way and where the driveway is going is associated with land he sold, I believe, 40 years ago. He sold this property. So the driveway that the person sees is not belonging to Paul. And so both statements are false. Someone's not educated, and again, if they come and get the facts, it's going to help a lot, because this took, over an hour of my day yesterday to research this, and we have better uses of our time.
So this letter in the envelope, please make sure you keep it in the office, because I have it on pretty good authority. There's gonna be a 91A request for a copy of that, for that person's records, so. All right, anything else on the anonymous letter? That is what I had for the week. And we covered in the new business, the gravel in the parking lot area. Anything else under reports, old, new business? Anything we want to bring up at this meeting?
No diplomas from school yet.
I haven't seen a thing on that since we talked about it. I know they're doing a function over there today because the library got a grant to hand out books to all the kids, or a good portion of the kids. So Grace is over there with some of the library staff from 8 to noon doing that handout and whatever that process is to be part of that. Yeah, they've applied for a couple of different grants at the library. This one happened to be would fund part of the children's program, I believe, in the summertime, which is going to start up not far down the road, and giving away books to daycare centers as well as the school. So very kind of cool. We had talked early on about having department head updates scheduled each week at our meeting. I got a call yesterday from Chief Duchesne at the PD. He asked for a reprieve to be here next week rather than this week. And he proceeded to tell me that there is a police standards and training audit team that is arriving on our doorstep this morning to audit the PD books from 2015 forward regarding some of the required records that are supposed to be in the filing cabinets out there that meet the Police Standards and Training Council requirements. Things like officer approvals, shooting records, things like that. Apparently, from what Joe told me, there's a whole host, there's like several dozen new chiefs in the state. A lot of retirements apparently have happened. And the police standards folks are going in and auditing all the departments where there's a new chief to make sure that the standards are being met. So it was out of the blue. We got nothing to hide. They're out there today. And when they get done, they'll provide a recommendation to the chief around any record retention improvements that can be made. We have the zoning officer coming in at 10:45 this morning. We have not had a chance to have Rebecca in here since COVID began, so this will be our first time to be able to have a discussion with her. And we can talk about her reports from last week. We can talk about some of the issues that are going on around town. Time for public comment. If you would like to say something, please raise your hand. Audrey will allow you to come in. And we'll hear what you have to say. We'll wait a full minute. We had some people trying to dial in a few weeks ago that claimed they couldn't get in because we were too quick. Yeah, don't stop, Tom. Keep going.
I was like my own enjoyment, so.
Yeah, we have to record here, and then you have to get the music, just turn it on, click.
You need to rename the camera, you don't get all you.
Well, it'll be interesting, because next week we'll go back to the old setup here at the front, in the front room, and see what we can cover with that.
I think it's worth mentioning that the meetings will be open to the public next week because 2 people have messaged me that I wouldn't be as busy with this 91A if the doors were open. So I look forward to meeting you people next week.
Anybody want to do public comment?
It's been a minute and 15 seconds. I have my stopwatch on.
Okay. Anything, go ahead.
Are we gonna revisit the times?
Times for,
Time of the selectmen.
yeah, we could, selectmen's meetings. I want to do some homework and some research around the other towns
Oh, okay.
in the county to figure out what they're doing before we do a hard and fast. I do also want to take into account that the budget committee meets at the 6 p.m. hour on Tuesdays, and I do not want to change that. I want to continue that, which means whatever we did, we'd have to have a meeting done before then. There is really no reason to have to kill a couple days a week when you can basically take Tuesday and get all the work done for the town. Don't need Monday nights, don't need Wednesday nights. So I'll do some homework and gather from the different websites and calling people around what are their meeting hours for selectmen and go from there.
And Osprey has a work session first, then they have their meeting. So we can get all that out, like say, 1 o'clock, I'm just using that as.
Yeah.
And then at 1 do our work session and have the meeting for, whatever.
Couple
3,
hours.
4, whatever.
And then before the,
Budget will be here at 6, so we'll already have a work session or whatever paperwork we have to.
all right, we'll keep
That's
that,
just an idea.
we'll keep that in mind. I'll try and pull that together this week. And I'll distribute it through Audrey to everybody so you can see what other towns are doing, in the county and whatever. And then we can deal with that next week.
So next week it's still at 9 a.m.
Next week is still at 9 a.m.
Okay, so Miss Kirkwood and the Leonard family, 9 a.m. next week. And there's a comment that people that work can't make it, and we've had comments from people who work second shift that can't make it, so.
There's a trade-off there.
It's a trade-off.
It's an equal trade-off in my mind based on my experience here.
Yeah.
Anybody else that's raising their hand to speak? Okay.
I had a suggestion about the department heads. If we schedule that they come in this, the first, the police chief comes in the first meeting, somebody else comes in the second meeting every month and schedule that way, then you're not always chasing them to see if they can come in. They know
And
when their
that's
scheduled,
actually what we did a couple weeks ago.
right, and they know when their scheduled meeting is, and hopefully they can, not always, but most of the time they can schedule their time around that.
Yep.
So if you let us know exactly who you wanna see, we can work that right into the
You
agenda.
should remind them.
Audrey actually had that email.
Okay.
And you on them?
It's a secret, Darlene work.
The minute taker. Yeah, so basically we'll have a department head in each week. And as I said, Joe wanted to be here because he had spent some time pulling some stuff together, but he'll be here next week instead. Do we have any non-public information to go over?
Hey,
I've got none.
We inadvertently missed the introductions this morning. So we have someone asking who's present in the room today.
Okay, so I did the 3 selectmen, I did not do the 2 staff. So
Oh, I stepped out, sorry, I missed the beginning.
Chuck Fuller, Lenny Espy, Tom Mark, selectman, Audrey Fraser, town administrator, Darlene Worthier, office assistant, with the
Right.
selectman's office.
Nick Ward.
Mick Wither, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Those are the people in attendance today. Any other questions coming in?
No, that's it.
Okay, we're not expecting Rebecca for 45 minutes. I do not want to end the meeting, so we're gonna take a 40-minute recess. And then we will come
Let's
back
go to the bathroom.
to the meeting at that time. So about 10:40, we will be back live, hopefully with Rebecca in attendance. Thank you. We're back. Okay, folks, it's about 10:43. We're still waiting on the CEO. She's supposedly here with us in about 3 minutes. Till we get there, let's talk Beaver a little bit. Have you seen the diverter that Evans Brothers built last year and put up on Hunter Road?
no,
Okay, so it was a steel
Yeah.
V. It's moved a little bit because it wasn't anchored down, and apparently it was only wired together, so it's moving a little bit. I asked Chris Garcia to reach out to the guy that's going to do the metal work at the Conger and Sons out of Freedom. It's going to do work at the town library, and said, could they take a look at what it would cost to create some kind of a design that we could put in there, and basically not have to dig out the culverts 3 or 4 times a year, to see if it will reduce the cost of maintenance of beaver. So,
yeah, they do make they call it beaver box. You know, beavers are pretty industrial, they'll plug anything up, I think, no matter what you put.
well, that was the,
I think what would have helped there is if they cut the culverts on a slope on the end. I think that would have helped. 'Cause that just gives them too much big area.
good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
Hello.
How have you been, Rebecca?
I've been pretty good.
Good.
I've been pretty good. Stayed pretty healthy. I had still recovering from knee surgery from a year and a half ago and abdominal surgery this spring, but otherwise.
You take care of your husband too, didn't you?
Yeah, well, he's going in for a 4th eye surgery on Monday.
Wow.
Yeah, they did detached retina. They did his left eye a year ago. Then his right eye went in March, and the repair hasn't gone well. So he's now, having done it twice up in Portland, he's going down to Boston.
He's going to Mass Eye here.
He's going to Beth Israel Deaconess. And that's where the guy at Maine Eye Care sent him. So So, and of course, with COVID, he has to go down the day early because the last time was, yeah, they won't do surgery without a cheap test, even if you're vaccinated. So that's the plan.
So Rebecca, we wanted to touch base.
Yeah.
And because we hadn't seen you in quite a while, we asked you to come in, so we're gonna start doing this kind of monthly. The department head into basically kind of a summary overview.
Sorry, forgot to have
Ask
this
any
on.
questions
Right.
needed for you or needed for us.
Mhm.
If we need to do something, we decide what we're gonna do moving forward and how that'll work. And we are going to continue doing these meetings from a video standpoint. So behind your head, up on that wall is a camera,
Okay,
and the speaker is right to your left arm on that
okay.
chair.
You want me where I could be seen on the,
Not necessary,
okay,
we just, Rebecca Boynton, the zoning enforcement officer of the town of Effingham. So what we want to do is basically just have you give us an overview of what's been happening. And then if there's any questions from our side and stuff, then we'll basically ask you. Ask you questions.
okay. Yeah, so I'm happy to answer any questions about any specific issues or properties. Let's see, we're a year into a major initiative that we started to really crack down on a bunch of problem junkyard properties. There were 11 on that list, I think, to start with.
Start with, yeah.
And we're down to, I think we're down to 6 or 7, 3 of which are in litigation. One is in active litigation, the other 2, our attorney has informed me he's in the process of putting together the paperwork for it. They are basically 2 properties, the owners of which have been unresponsive and non-compliant. And you know, that's, to me, that's 2 for 2. You're out of the game. There are people who are non-compliant, but they're being very responsive and little notes and whatever. And you know, I'm trying to.
So they're making an attempt to do
There
something.
may be an attempt. They,
Over time.
you know, as I said in my recent report, I mean, you've got people in their 70s who've been amassing junk on their properties their entire life as part of their buy and sell scrap or whatever, and trying to get them to clean up could be difficult. But at the moment I'm dealing with I think 4 properties, one of which I have high hopes for. They've done a lot of cleanup and they're not dealing with a lot. They don't seem to be buying and selling scrap. 2 properties are elderly owners where we may need to work out some kind of program, which would actually benefit the townwide. That if we said, okay, we're trying to do this and we're gonna help facilitate, you know, a scrap pickup, a tractor trailer from the place wherever it is that Dave Van Tassel told me about that actually buys camper tops for scrap, you know, that kind of thing. You know, facilitating getting tires picked up, you know, a moratorium on fees for tires at the dump day, you know, that kind of thing. That might help.
Excuse me, the public says you're mumbling, and we found that when we wear masks. I'm wondering if you're willing to lower your mask.
Is everyone in the room vaccinated?
Yeah.
Yep. And you're wearing your mask?
Yes.
Okay. That's my only concern. I mean, I'm following CDC guidelines, which is that you don't meet in a close space with people who are vaccinated. Yeah. So, and I know it's a HIPAA issue, but I think that under the circumstances, you know, I volunteer it all the time. I volunteered to the young lady who was using the bathroom out back when I was there, and she was sort of apologizing for coming home. And I said, "Oh, it's okay. I'm vaccinated." She said, "Oh, I am too." No, it's fine. Yeah. So again, so we've got the 4 properties. We've got one that I have hopes for eventually a good cleanup. We have 2 that their owners are elderly, and we may need to provide some townwide assistance, which might benefit us with some other properties that are minor issues that we're not calling junkyards, but you know, they have 2 or 3 RVs and they have no way of getting rid of them because there's no one that will take them, whereas if we could facilitate. So RV tops, which aren't recyclable, junkyards, and tires, which are something that we might consider a long-term effort for. And I actually had in mind that maybe there's someone in the community that's interested enough in this project that might want to seek out grants for support for this kind of thing. There might be a cleanup grant of some sort, so that we could actually get, I know people take little loads of stuff over to Rickers, which is an official junkyard, and then they fill up a tractor trailer and then they take it somewhere. So they buy little bits and don't, is there a way that we can invite Aaron Ricker or whoever else, she's actually something higher than 10, to bring a vehicle over here and suggest that, he could monitor people bringing it up, he could sort of buy it on the spot and load it and get it, anyway. Some sort of thing that would facilitate not only those two problem junkyards that are owned by elderly people who really are struggling to do what they can with bad news and everything else. And a few other properties around town that have one or two items that it would benefit all of us to see, help them get those old RVs out of there or that old rusting boat trailer or whatever.
Is there any recycling system for old RVs?
There is evidently Dave Van Tassel, who's the son of Jen Van Tassel, who owns the property on High Watch. He told me in a phone call that there is a place, I think he said in Maine, that will take them, but they take them by the tractor trailer load or whatever. And so you have to have an intermediary or you have to arrange with them. I mean, I'm wondering if we could get a grant for recycling RV tops and then contact these people, would they be interested in bringing a vehicle down? Could we find someone with the right rigs to load? I think it's an issue, but I was heartened by him to say that the aluminum tops of the RVs, there is a place they will go.
Can you get the contact information?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to Dave Van Tassel about
Yeah,
that and find that
I
out.
think it's worth a call to find out. Okay,
Yeah,
we're not the first town or city that's ever asked this question. So,
right.
what are some of the things they can do to help us?
Right. Hard metal has a home, so you just have to, connect the dots to get it there.
With the junk cars, how many would you say we've been able to kind of get out of town so far? Off the top of your head?
Maybe a couple of dozen.
Okay.
Maybe. I know that our other Van Tassel, Ray Van Tassel over on Nutter Road, I know he got rid of a bunch of them. Enough that I said, that yard's clean, and again, there are places like that, but all the visible stuff is gone, there's no active bringing stuff in. I've said, okay, we've done what we can on this initiative. If we have an additional initiative where we're facilitating this, then maybe some stuff will literally come out of the woods.
Kind of where it's going with my question. Like, if we've got people that are elderly enough that they really don't know where to go to even try and solve the problem.
Right.
We could go to them and say, okay, here's a list of 3 people that we're aware of that remove junk cars in town.
Yeah, I know that, and I understand that Hafford was taking stuff out and taking it over to Rickers, and I had a conversation with him, and he said, "Oh, I'll provide you with the receipt from Rickers for having done it," and I never heard a thing. And this is the thing. I mean, I'll forgive someone for not being comfortable with email and having a phone without the mailbox set up. But when someone says I'm going to do this, and they've been on my list for months and months and months and months and months, and then there's no follow through, that was when I said my patience only goes so far. I'm not going to go down to Aaron Ricker and say, I did this in Effingham and blah blah blah. It just doesn't make sense. I will say one of the most successful recycling initiatives I ever saw happen was that the town of Tamworth had an e-waste recycling, an electronics recycling. And the vehicle, the pickup, the truck, the van that came to take it to wherever it needed to go, where we don't get to go individually, we take that thing into Staples and hoping they'll take it. And they actually, the Tamworth Foundation, which is Tamworth's nonprofit grantor that was started in the 20s, I think, And they give money out to the community, the local nurses and the arts organizations, and, heating oil, and they did stuff during COVID and emergency stuff. Anyway, they gave a grant to actually, I think it was Tamron Wireless, which was the internet provider at the time, to do the e-waste thing. And they got a couple of trucks and they set it up at the Brett School. And you were invited to just bring everything for free. You just bring it and you put it on the truck. And they were astounded. I mean, TVs were coming out of the woods and getting recycled. And it's like, two things. Easy location. I mean, people actually knew what to do. And the second one was that it was free. But I bet even if it had been like $5 a piece or $1 a piece, for most people, it would have been manageable. It was the ease of knowing how to do it. And, I had this conversation with someone years ago about why people will rent videos and they won't take in performing arts or go to art gallery or whatever. It's because they're comfortable doing something that's easy and familiar, and they're not comfortable doing something that's not. So going down to Blockbuster and renting a video, even if it's a really offbeat wild art film, it's easy for them to do. A lot harder to go to an art gallery or art opening or go to a play. So making it easy and straightforward for people. So if you did a moratorium day, if we did it, even if we planned enough for it that we did it in the fall when the leaves were off and people could see stuff, I don't know. I just don't feel like I have the time. I mean, I'll certainly find out about the RVs, but I was hoping if we put our heads together, that we might find that there was someone that had been part of the town before, been on a board, or had said to someone at the library, hey, I'd like to volunteer, I'd like to help out, on maybe one of the two Effingham Facebook pages. We've got this initiative, anyone want to try and write a grant? That was just my thought. So, and the fourth one, and we'll see what happened with Mr. Waddington up on Libby Road. He is a waste disposal person, and he does rescue scrap from going into landfill and then sell it. And I said, well, maybe if you can get some kind of permission for what it is you do, an umbrella in under contractor storage yard, and you have a isolated area on the property, then you could continue doing what you're doing without a problem, if it wasn't considered a junkyard. And I know he's initiated the process of going to the planning board or his ZBA. I put him in touch with Nate, so that's happening. So we'll see what will happen. I hate to take people's livelihood away from them. If someone's been doing something a long time and we finally caught up with them, and I'm reasonably comfortable when I don't get any response shooting someone off for legal, but we don't need to spend that money if we can work with people. And the answer is not to be a disciplinarian. I mean, believe me, I hated school. I don't believe in disciplinarianism. I believe in problem solving. And so the answer is not to slap someone's wrist about what they're doing, but to figure out what the problem is and see if we can, make it workable.
So where we got from 11 down to 5 or 6.
Yeah. So
should we look at going after the next 4 or 5?
No, the 4 that we're talking about are the four that are active.
Okay.
So we're at 7. We've got 3. We've got Misty Mountain Farm. It's in litigation. We've got 2 others that were unresponsive. Literally, I mean, letters, emails, nothing. I'd say, send me this, let me know, whatever. And it's remarkable because I will send the same letter to someone who's computer savvy and get no response at all, and send the letter to Bonnie Noble, and a little handwritten note on pink note paper will show up in an envelope here at the office, saying we're trying, his knee's bad, stop harassing me, and I understand it, but she made the effort to respond before the deadline, so that's what I'm going to work with.
Okay.
So
should we put anything up on the town website for resources for people? I don't think we've got much up there. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to think that there is someone See, I mean, these are zoning issues at the point they're at. But in terms of trash in town and junk in town, we don't really have someone who's wearing the hat for that, where we have a health officer that's wearing the hat for septic and stuff. And, you know, I can be brought into that conversation, but it resides with someone else. And I don't know whether there is someone who's been involved in the past with Green Up Day or something like that, that would be interested in being the town cleanup guru. If I could put it that way, I just, you know, I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice to think there would be someone who would, you know, similar to someone who's gung ho about being on the library board or historic district or whatever, who would say, yeah, that's a great idea, and know that they had the support of the zoning office and the selectmen for whatever they were trying to do, but they, you know, they might come up with some ideas or systems. So, I mean, we could put our heads together and come up with something to put on the town website as maybe an update, you know, putting a really positive spin on what's happened with the junkyard initiative over the last year. And this is what we're trying to do, and that we're looking for some folks who might be interested in helping the staff facilitate either getting some grants for removal or something like that. Do you want to try doing something like that?
I think we ought to take a look at it.
Well,
I think one person, take a look at some of the other websites around us, town websites,
Okay,
and find out what they might have going. Why
okay.
not?
What are other towns doing?
That's really what we need to look at and find. I mean, we know they're probably doing something. It's, do they have anything that they're, as like resources and other help mechanisms up on their town website?
Yeah,
Night Cruise, Ossipee, and Wakefield, and Freedom, and Madison.
Yeah.
Austin, and Conway, rather, just trying to get ideas around what's going to Sandwich.
yeah, Sandwich. You know, Sandwich would close its doors to the world if they discovered someone had dropped one piece of litter in the street. So, I would
We're not going that far.
No, it's not being recorded. That's the trouble. Sorry, Sandwich. No, but Sandwich has been very aggressive over the years and very protective. I don't think you can put an RV on your land in Sandwich. I don't think they have a permitting process. They don't. I don't think they have any campgrounds. I'm not sure. You know, with RVs, they're very you know, they're very protective about that. And I ran a theater in Sandwich for years and years and years, and they're just, you know, they're very by the book. And they're still there. They may have finally hired someone, but all the years I was working over there, they were still issuing all their building permits, and they have full zoning, and their permit application was 6 pages. They were doing it all through the Board of Selectmen. They didn't have any staff doing it.
I wonder if anyone on Conservation Commission would want to meet it.
Oh, brilliant idea. Yeah,
We can look into that.
that's a brilliant idea.
So you mentioned RVs. Which is one of the discussion items I want to ask you about.
Okay.
So with all, do we have a list of all the RVs around and who's paid their permits? And who hasn't?
No, in fact, I had that talk with Dave last week, and he said, you know, he knows the assessment program well enough. And speaking of German, no offense.
I'm gonna take you to my last,
We're in meeting.
Well, my
we're in
favorite.
meeting.
yes, I'm just dropping this off. Since you have this,
All right, okay.
I'll catch you later.
no, we'll be back in here together.
Today. He said he could put a search tool into Avatar to pull up all the RV permits. So I think, okay, great, let's do that before the end of June. But what it'll do is it'll pull up all the RVs that have ever applied for a permit and see if they've gotten one this year. So that's one approach. I don't have a tool for RVs that are out there that have never been permitted, other than the fact that when someone tells me about them, I send them a notice and say you have to get an RV permit, and we go through this dance.
So we could produce a list that would give us an address of the permitted RVs.
Right, and it would give us a
Somebody
list of,
drive around and they said, whoops, here's an RV, but there's nothing on the list. Then it's a follow-up by you.
yes, yeah, exactly. And I have, I have notes on that you've given me, and Vicky Garcelle, who lives on Winter Road, just sent me an email about some RVs over there. And there's one that I've been following for a year and a half now, trying to get a permit, and the mail keeps getting returned. So the address that's in our database is a delivery May. I mean, those are one of my frustrations. Then there's,
So even the property tax address?
Maybe that's the address David got today.
and then there's the other thing where you send them a notice and they send in the application, but without the permit fee. And I changed all the applications to have email addresses on them, so I can email them and say, you never sent a check, and they sit there and sit there and sit there. And I finally send the application back, saying, there was no check, you have to resubmit, and then you never hear another thing. And it's a few hours out of my short week to just pursue those kinds of incomplete stuff.
I wonder,
Most of the world isn't as responsible as I would like to say the five of us in this room, which is when you get a correspondence sometime within the next, say, month or 6 months. Let's be generous, because I know I've got some, you respond to it.
well, I'd like to crank up that RV list.
Okay, all right.
We had an incident a week and a half ago where 2 barrels were dumped off Hunters Pond Road. One was over half full of human waste. And we're now getting a environmental cleanup company to come in and clean it up.
Oh my,
And talking around, that is a primary method that people use when they don't have septic systems. So I want to take a look at the RVs, make sure we get everything licensed. And I am at some point going to want to take a look at the process for dealing with folks that have the RVs that never move for an entire season.
right,
People
and
are coming in and living there. It's like, so what are you doing?
yeah, and that's one of the things, the way the zoning ordinance is written, is it says that, and it's right there in the RV permit, is that you have to be disposing of the waste under the state standards. But I'm not going around, I'm not asking for chips showing that it's been pumped. I mean, and there's 2 standards. There's the RVs that are on property that have septic systems, and may have actually hooked it up to the septic system, albeit not completely legitimately. Although sometimes it's a functioning septic system and the house is burned down, and they're just using the RV there. And so we're not talking about did the state inspect it and everything. We're just talking about, okay, well, I mean, we live in the country, let's be a little bit flexible on some of these things. But other ones, if we want to ratchet it up, there's a bunch of things we could do. We say our RVs are only used seasonally. We could say that you have to provide some kind of proof back to the town that you closed your RV for the season. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, we have most of the RVs I write permits for, most of them are for RVs that have been in the same place on the same property year after year after year. In fact, when I get the application, I write repeat on it. I don't do a site visit because I'm just going to be looking at the same RV in the same place. And I don't think it's worth my time to go out and look. I went out the first time. Or even the
Now
first and
that
second
this
time.
new incident, it could put a different spin on how we're going to take a look at managing the disposal issues on RV sites.
Well, and I mean, RVs are really, really difficult. How do you monitor it? What do you expect of people? And as we all know, the reason that town has been as harsh as they have is because people have lived in them year round. And we still have people out there living in them year round. And what are you gonna do? Evict them? Go after them? I mean, letters I've sent this, that, the other, it's dropped down in priority to the things that, I could probably name the 3 properties in town. Where I think you got.
Those would be, as an example, those would be the 3 that I would look at if it's a year-round living scenario.
I think probably if
What are
they've
you doing
been
for
there
license plate?
20 years,
No, no, I mean-
they're not trucking it somewhere else. I
Right.
think you're probably talking about a more recent someone who doesn't have a solution. Like the folks, there was a problem with the RV that was up on Old Town Road. That they were actually living there and it was a potter's property and the folks were in there and the kids, they were spending all their time in the library and they were alienating the library patrons because they were being really rude. And, this was like 2 years ago. And of course, Maureen was all over it. She lives on Old Town and she was on the library. And it's like, and I sent notice after notice and I think finally I got the potters to say you can't be there. But this is the case of a pickup truck camper being pulled onto a piece of property and then they're living there.
We're gonna have to figure out a way to start tracking that stuff.
Yeah.
Because the waste disposal issues are gonna,
Are you the health officer?
nope, Michael is.
Oh, he stayed on as health officer?
He actually was a 3-year appointment by the Department of Health and Human Services.
Oh,
And that actually came up at a meeting a couple weeks ago because a number of people wanted to get rid of them. When we followed up with DHS, we found out that the only person that can fire him for cause is the commissioner of DHHS until April 2023. So Mike is fully involved as health officer.
I didn't realize it worked that way because I know that the town health officer has always come from the Board of Selectmen. But I didn't realize that what happened was once the board decided amongst themselves who was going to be health officer, they were actually appointed by the state.
You got it.
Wow.
Yeah, we found that out. Nobody would tell me.
Sort of like the Federal Reserve or whatever, sits kind of outside the political hierarchy.
But in this area with this issue of potential waste management issues, Mike will probably get involved with that.
Well, I'm glad we set up a health officer email. That actually makes it a little more straightforward. Okay. Well, it seems like the RV is a zoning and health officer issue then at this point. But the first step, I'll work with Dave to figure out.
The first thing, you get that list together.
Get the list
validate
of
the list,
of
do a drive
every-
around,
Hmm?
do a drive around, and validate the list.
right, everyone that has ever gotten an RV permit. And then I can do a cross check as zoning officer as to whether they've gotten a permit in the past and they're just not up to date. But we can also use that to get the list of ones denied. Okay. RVs, yeah.
Hours,
Hours.
where we're going back to public next Monday.
Yeah.
Because the governor's executive order to allow others reasons are no longer going to be valid.
Mhm.
The offices will be open to the public again. What are you looking at doing relative to the way you used to do this?
Well, I used to have the office open for an hour and a half once a week. And I had it open during the time that the Board of Selectmen was meeting. I wasn't comfortable being out back there by myself with no one else around. Are you going back to evening meeting hours?
TDD,
Okay.
well, we're actually, we discussed today, we're going to be looking at that in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. What hours, are there any evening hours that any of the staff does
Until 6 o'clock, the town clerk is here
on
Tuesday.
Tuesdays at 6 o'clock? Okay,
And that's by design because of safety, potential safety issues in the wintertime when dark.
yeah. So, I could consider, dovetailing my hours with hers. I hadn't actually thought about it. Are we allowed to require people to be masked?
Not the selectmen have to set policy for the entire town.
Mhm.
And we set policy today that no, we're not going to require masks.
I'm not gonna meet.
But,
Yeah.
hold on. But if anybody requests to wear a mask, wants to wear a mask, they can do it. So if somebody walked in here and said, due to my medical condition, I'd like you, one of the staff, you can wear a mask, they don't put a mask on to transact the business. Anybody that feels uncomfortable in the office can continue to wear a mask, no problem whatsoever.
I'm thinking about me being uncomfortable with people coming to my office without a mask.
Can she set her own, like if one person sets her own?
So that one more time,
Can she set her own policy?
not that I'm aware of, but I'll check on that.
I'm not comfortable holding office hours with people that come in and are either wearing a mask and disclosing whether they have been vaccinated.
Can't make that request on vaccination.
Well, then I can just,
Oh, you can wear a mask.
no, it works the other way around.
Nope, you can wear the mask.
Right, but the protection is generally, the mask is being worn to protect the other people. Yes.
We can do some social distance requirements regarding being able to enter the office area and where people would have to be sitting and communicating from, they don't have to be sat right in front of the desk.
Well, let me look into the guidelines.
And I'll make a call to NHMA legal and find out what we may or may not be able to do.
We also have, the plexiglass like you saw in the front. Right, that we can share.
We can create shield on the desk.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason for people to meet me in purpose is sliding maps and things back and forth, right, in person, and I just don't see how that would work with shields and whatever. I mean, there's no point in me holding office hours unless I'm back there. There's nothing I can do in here that I really can't do at home. So it's a question of the comfort level for that, in terms of what I can and cannot do.
Ask the legal counsel.
Okay.
I'll do that today. All right. I have questions I'm looking for. You got any?
Yeah, I just, building up on 153, the new one, at this end.
Oh, right on the corner of 153 and, yeah.
Yeah, well, we talked about it. Gonna be over a year now, right? That's been maybe not that long. At the beginning, if I remember correctly, we were gonna have an apartment, but then they did something about the septic and then.
Yeah, at the moment,
Right.
At the moment, I believe it's just hobby storage for two owners.
What are they storing?
I think they collect cars or something.
All right, because now there's a vent pipe in the road coming through.
Well, I can check and see if they have, I think I'm pretty sure they've got a septic design approved. I couldn't have given them a building permit without an approved septic design. So, and that septic design is good for 4 years, and they can go ahead and put the septic system in without me knowing about it. So they could have gone ahead and put the septic system in and put in the bathroom.
Although I thought they were doing away with the apartment because there was an issue or something at the time.
Well, I don't know, but I think they were always planning on putting in sanitary facilities. So even if they weren't going to do apartments, they were going to turn it into an office adjunct to their storage and one of the bathroom. But I've got a note actually to reach out to them and find out. I have their email.
Yeah, I just wonder where it stood and all right
Right.
now.
Yeah, it's pretty prominent, I know. On the other hand, even if it is a residential use that might morph into sort of semi-commercial use, it's a good location for it. So, rather than off in the neighborhood.
Isn't that mostly wetlands in there?
Well, they looked around the wetlands. They did all the proper stuff for that. They're shoehorned in between the current 153 and the old piece of 153 that the state kept. And actually, earlier I had a conversation with them about them reaching out to the state to see if they could purchase the part that was never used so that they could just make it run with a big law. But I used to try and facilitate that a lot. I don't as much as I used to because it takes a lot of time, and I'm looking at a map and I can see what you do and I can suggest it to someone, but if they don't want to follow through on it.
Well, there's motor vehicle storage, you say?
I think that was what it was.
I the only reason I ask these questions, I've had people ask me.
Right, and someone
What is it?
else, Teresa asked me the same thing, and I said I'd reach out to them and find out what their current use was. She sent me an email.
All right, thank you.
So that is on my stack of questions to go out to people. So,
Anything else, Tom?
No, not at the moment.
I just got the junkyard, is it mostly vehicles or is it all kinds of?
well, if you read my report, you can see what Jack Van Tassel had on his property. It's of the problem was, it's a combination of vehicles of semi-useful scrap metal, like old axles and plows and, vehicle machinery, I guess.
The reason I asked, I mean, take somebody like, say, North Country Recycling, they might come down with a dumpster, let them fill it.
Yeah.
And just haul it off.
Right. I don't know why these properties that have this level of intensity aren't able or ready to do that. I don't know whether it's just the expense or whether they just do not have the organizational capability to look at their property and say, if I did this with the tires, if I did this with the scrap metal, if I did this with this, then it would be under control. I mean, I've got a very compartmentalized mind, and I look at it and I go, okay, you've got 8 RVs, you've got 10 pieces of farm equipment that's just straight scrap metal, you've got, 5 vehicles, you have 2, and it seems to me, okay, this falls in this. And then if you got to the end of it, and Jan Fantastic, at the end of it, it was all gone except the 2 box trailers. Fine, nobody's saying you can't have 2 box trailers on your property and be cycling stuff in and out from it. But I think most people, the stuff comes in, they're living kind of hand to mouth, so often the tires and scrap metal and the trash are mixed in together. I mean, the note from Jan Van Tassel said they've taken 3 truckloads of trash bags of trash out of there. So when I walked it, there obviously wasn't a lot of trash. And I hadn't walked it as extensively last fall, so I couldn't say, wow, it looks a lot cleaner, but it did look like it was just like woods that had vehicles parked in it, as opposed to a lot of garbage. So,
Lenny, could you reach out to them and find out what they may or may not be willing to do?
Yeah. North Country.
And figure out, we may on individual solutions. Hey, we think we got something.
well, there might be someone in town with a machine that says, hey, my good deed for the town for the years, I'm gonna make myself available with my backhoe that has a bite or a jaw on it. And I'm gonna go around to these different places and help people load the dumpster. I mean, I've often thought it would be great if you can get people who don't want to serve on the board, who don't want to do that sort of stuff, who had in their head that there was maybe one thing a year that they wanted to volunteer for the town. And that'd be great. I bet we got a lot of people in town who have good equipment that could do that.
No. Okay. Anything else, Mike?
Yeah. Get a heavy permit at 1724 Providence Lake Road, the numbers go that high. I thought it ended at 16.
That would have been the number they gave me. Okay, 327. Well, I don't have my maps with me, but it's probably all the way down after you go through Taylor City. And you're still on Providence Lake Road. So you're between Taylor City and well, yeah, Taylor City or Taylor City and the lake. I mean, from Taylor City and the lake is still numbered on our side.
So it's probably down in Jolly Roger Road.
No, they haven't done anything. Went on through 27. Is this all wrong?
No.
My maps are wrong.
Really,
Rebecca's getting some maps right now.
Do not remove. Well, I just did.
You know where they are.
Was it 10327?
1720.
Well, the map is,
103.27.
okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's on, just on the north edge of Bailey Road. So it's where you would going down this way. It's the right turn on the Bailey Road. It's the first lot there. Surprised it doesn't have a Bailey Road address, but it actually has a
Yeah.
153 address.
Didn't realize that numbers 155.
Yeah, it's right behind, it's right beyond the store, I think.
Yeah.
That's-
Speaking of Bailey Road, do we know if there's a permit condition in a new building with a little red store? It's like about 10 by 20, nice wooden structure that's been erected there.
Next to the store,
Yeah.
Literally, it's right beside the store where the parking lot is, on the backside of the parking lot, and like looks like a 10 by 20 building. If not, you just check it.
I'm pretty sure that she did. I don't remember when. It's easier to do a search, obviously, with the computer.
When David gets that stuff loaded, it'll be easy to find.
Well, I can, because it's all in my computer, I can do a, I'm not finding a, I'm scanning the lot numbers, but I'm pretty sure that she did at some point.
There was a permit for her to redo the store.
Yeah, but there was, she did a permit for something else as well.
I had some people asking about this last week, so that's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never seen something about that too.
Well, if you put the map and lot or the address into the computer and pull up the tax card in the tax box, it says whether there's a permit or not. You just go to permits and it lists the permit. So anyone can look that up and see if there's a
If
permit.
they got a permit over here, and there's something when they added something else over here, will, if this permit show up and not necessarily.
Well, if they got a permit.
Okay.
If they got a permit to refurbish the store, and then they're now bought a 10 by 20 shed and put that next to the store.
Right, but I may have issued, that may have been a later permit, I just don't remember.
Right, so that would show up on the, like Chuck said, there's a permit over here to redo the store. And someone brings something else in, put it on the other side.
Is there enough detail on what ended up on the tax card to tell me it was a store on one, but a separate building on the other?
Yeah, it says what the permit is for.
Right.
So it says, it gives the date the permit was issued, and so it would say RV, or it will say renovate store, or it'll say add 10 by 20 deck, or whatever.
And when are those put on?
When Dave puts them on. So,
So when he gets them from you.
yeah, so everything, so this has always been the process, is I get the application, I issue the permit, I bring the paperwork back in here, I pair up all the paperwork that I've assembled on the road or whatever with the check, which has been waiting with the file in the back office, because I pulled the property file and reviewed it. And then I give the check to Lean, used to give the check to Gwen with the stuff, but we cut out the middleman on that and give the file and the completed permit to Dave, and he inputs the information into Avatar, and then he puts the hard copy permit into the property folder and puts it back in the room.
So I'm clear, I don't have to email you going, Rebecca, does this permit exist or whatever? I think you would just look it up.
You can look it up there, or you can, when one of these ladies isn't really busy, you can ask if the closet is unlocked, you can go pull a property file and go through the entire property file.
Okay.
I mean, geek out,
No,
have
it's,
fun.
I,
Reading a property file.
I didn't realize I didn't want to look that up on the card. That's.
You can't, see, this is the difficulty, it's one of the reasons that we have to have the local stuff. The online one provides a lot of information, but I think that the online one doesn't include the permits. I don't remember.
I don't know. I think it does
I think
actually.
it
That's
does.
what I looked yesterday when I asked about that project.
You went to the web-based
Yeah.
one.
Mhm.
Okay, so you can even do that with the web-based link that's from the Effingham homepage. Which isn't a property card, it's the property information. It's not the card as we're used to. What it doesn't have is the mailing addresses and a couple of
Correct.
other things. A couple of things that are in the public version that you click on from the website that that aren't there that we have in the in-house version. But if the permits are there, then, yeah. I think the difficulty may be is that in the online version, it doesn't show up in its handy place, that it's boxed in with a bunch of other narrative information, but I'm not sure.
I think it was a separate tab.
Yeah, I mean, there is a separate, okay. Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, there's whether or not they have a permit, and then there's, so I need to look, you wrote me back, I need to look and see if the property next to them has had a permit, and I didn't have a chance in that turnaround. Just so you all know, I actually don't do a lot of desk work at home on Mondays and Fridays. I'm trying to keep the Effingham work to 3 days, including one of those days coming in here. So I try and respond to as many simple emails as possible on Monday, especially ones from town staff. But I'm generally not at my desk for 2 or 3 hours Monday morning, you know, trying to do stuff.
Workload wise, and the hours that have been allocated by the budget, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's dropped off. You probably, you know, you've seen in the time card, it's dropped off recently, the last couple of weeks because of the medical issues that Jeffrey and I have been dealing with, and they just haven't seemed to be able to grab 12 hours out of a week. They dropped down to more like 6 or 8. And I've got a tiny backlog of, you know, more complex responses, you know, real emails that have to be sent out to people saying, would you please explain what you're doing? As opposed to the simple answers for people, which is, yes, you do need a building permit to build a shed, you know, or a porch. Those are easy to answer. So,
Thank you.
okay.
I'm all set.
Okay.
I'm also, I'm also.
Rebecca, thank you.
All
And
right.
we'll try and keep the future monthly things down to like a half an hour or so. Try to manage them tight, so.
Yeah, and I do appreciate you changing the schedule for me, as I warmly explained to everyone. 50 years of being in theater, I don't get up early in the morning. And,
She didn't like 9:30.
well, I have a full exercise routine for my knee to do in the morning and everything, and so this was fine. So coming in at the end of your meeting is perfect for me. Then I'll have a productive morning here or doing something.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right, we're at the time of the day where
Need a motion to adjourn. Second.
all those in favor, all right.
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks. Have a great week.